Welcome back to another episode of Working with Hunters. I'm Josh, and in today's episode, we're going to show you guys how to service your hunter. So let's do this. Alright guys, we're starting with the most important thing first, and that's changing the oil. We've decided to use Shell Advanced AX5 15W50 as it's specified for motorcycles, and it's close to the specifications that Hunter requires for motorcycle oil, which is 15W40. So before you can start changing the oil, you need to start up your bike, let it run for a good 15-20 minutes, get that oil nice and hot. Makes changing a lot easier. So let's do that. Alright guys, now that the oil has had a fair amount of time to heat up in the engine, you're going to need a ratchet with a 17mm socket on it. Now this may vary depending on what year model your bike is, so keep that in mind. You should have a usual full-size socket set anyway. Now, it's right under the engine here. Be careful because it's all going to be hot now. You're going to want to get that ratchet on that.
Now the trick to not get covered in scalding hot oil is to apply the right amount of pressure to the bolt until it's completely off. Then pull it out of the way and out comes the oil. Simple.
Drained out all the old oil. We're going to have to drop the bike back down on the stand and then pick it up again just so the bike's nice and level. That way when we're filling up the bike, we can get a true reading of how much oil is in there. Very important not to overfill the bike. If you overfill it, you'll get pressure build up, you could blow a gasket, a seal. Not something you want to be dealing with. Let's do that.
Remember to replace the drain plug. Next, you're going to need to place down a rag and remove the dipstick. Then you can begin filling. Make sure you fill in small amounts at a time, so that way you don't overfill the motorcycle. Make sure the motorcycle's perfectly level, screw the dipstick in all the way, pull it out, and then check. Make sure that it is not past the top line, but is as close to the line as possible. This will ensure that it is not overfilled.
Now that the oil's been changed, we can go over the whole bike and make sure everything's in roadworthy conditions. Make sure they're not under too much tension, make sure there's no dings, no scratches, no wear on both sides. Make sure there's not any tension on full cycle of the steering. You're going to want to check your front brakes, make sure your discs are all nice and smooth, make sure your brake pads aren't worn down too much.
slack in your throttle line, and then pull the throttle back and let go and ensure that it returns to the original idle position.
Okay guys, if you still have the stock airbox on your Hunter, it's pretty simple to get to. All you've got to do is lift the seat off, which I show you in episode 1, and then take the left hand side panel off and you can access it in there. You don't actually have to physically remove the airbox to service it. Once it's open on that side, this is what you'll see. 3 bolts, screws I should say. Pop that cover off and you'll have your main filter in here. It's just a standard foam filter. Now, you can either vacuum this out and give it a good clean, or you can head down to your local OEM parts distributor and you can buy a block of filter foam. You cut it to size and it just gets sandwiched between those 2 pieces of plastic. Insert that back into there, like so. Put your cover back on. Put these 3 screws back in. Put your cover and your seat back on, and then yeah, put your service.
Ensure that your brake lines are nice and secure. Make sure you check the banjo bolt and that's nice and tight. Check to make sure there isn't much movement in the caliper, ensuring that both mounting bolts are secured tightly. Next, make sure the disc's nice and smooth and you're ready to move on.
So that's the end of the service episode. Remember that this isn't to replace the service that you're supposed to get done at your dealers. Now, keep in mind you're going to want to polish your paint and or your chrome as often as you can to make sure it's in prestige condition. And that's the end of the episode.